Evening, early night to everyone out there. This is Tristan Sean Gregson here with Kyle Eck. We are broadcasting the Magic Box here live. Super late night. So the draft didn't go that long. We had the NFL draft after that per week for us. So.
True. We had a bit of a fantasy football conundrum.
But we took care of it when we were here in the late hours of the night to bring you Magic Box action. Partially because it's so important that we get out the Theros-related spoiler information, the initial changelog that has been proposed. It's not a guarantee, but it's what we're interested in changing.
It's a first draft.
It's kind of a second draft.
These will be the things brought to the committee, the Council of Elders.
Right. We need to
brought before.
I mean, obviously, as we go through the show, we'll kind of talk a little bit more about the exactly whys, exactly what the talking points are, because it's not a set in stone situation, but it's definitely a jumping off point. But before we get to scenarios for the day, I've got to talk about the great, I wouldn't say trap that I sprung this evening, but the good...
I mean, it's a bit of a trap.
I
definitely felt like there was something was amiss. When you were actively volunteering to be the 9th drafter instead of taking one for the team and sitting out so we had 8 like you normally do.
Yeah, usually.
I was like, oh, that's really strange. Maybe, I guess Tristan really just wants to play Magic tonight.
When we're broadcasting after the draft, we try to get started as fast as we can. We don't want to lollygag because obviously we're starting super late at night. So usually it's just like boom. As soon as we have enough for a draft, if no one's RSVP'd, we're not waiting specifically on a particular person, we'll draft. And tonight we were sitting on 9 drafters, and it was like, well, we can sit around, wait for more people. Usually in that kind of situation, I'll sit out so we have an even number. But this particular evening, I did not, because last week, Eck had made a request of me. We were talking about, obviously with new sets being released, we're going to look at old cards. We're going to look at a lot of cards for changes. And
I like doing a thing whenever we're talking about changes to kind of go back and look at previous cards, things that had been like on the fence, contentious cuts, that sort of thing. And I had some trouble remembering kind of the history of some of them. And we have we call it the bench. It's the binder of the Cube also rans the not as good, the minor leagues. And so I just asked, I know sounds ridiculous, but would you type that entire binder into a spreadsheet and give it to me so I could look at it?
In reality, multiple binders of Magic cards.
Right.
So I took the time last week to go ahead and type it all up for him, send it out, and organize it. And it got me thinking. We're right around the time that it's time for a re-sleeve for the Cube. It's that time of the year. I'd just taken all the time to put together this card list, and I was like, you know what? Let's do a little crowdsourcing here. We'll take out the regular Cube and we'll completely replace it with the on-deck minor league Cube. So tonight, moments before the people picked up their pack ones, I sprung on them that they were in fact drafting with all the rejects.
Surprise!
Yeah, and I thought it was going to be hilarious, and it was a lot of fun. The only problem was that in the on-deck binders, we still have the unfunds. We have the Miltens.
Right. So this was to give everyone an idea of what this format at a glance looked like. Imagine all of the cards that you do not run in a powered cube because they are not good enough, and then put Sword of Body and Mind and Jace the Mind Sculptor in that format.
Jace Memory Adept.
Memory Adept, excuse me. Yeah. Jace Memory Adept and Sword of Body and Mind in, which are pretty much the only 2 cards that powered cube, at least ours, doesn't run for like gameplay purposes.
Right.
They're just like 2 format warping, even in a format with Moxen and Lotus and things like that.
So while part of me didn't really bother to think about it, and part of me was just almost too lazy and just be like, yeah, let's just see what happens. Of course, what's the first thing that happens? Eck gets paired against the round 1 red-green aggro player who happens to have Sword of Body and Mind and then loses in 11 quick turns in 2 games.
Yeah, it was a beating.
I contested that minus the Sword of Body and Mind, he still would have lost handily to that deck.
And then we took the sword out of his deck, and then I beat him 2 straight. So that is a contentious debate.
I don't know. But that red-green deck is the deck that actually won the draft, and I don't think it was so much. I think it was just a good deck. I mean, you had your full complement of Gazban Ogre, Wild Dogs, Goblin Patrol, Mog Flunkies, Hellspark Elemental, Reckless Charge, Mutagenic Growth.
His deck was very good. It just also had
Orcish Oriflame on 2 mana from the Alpha Edition.
Errata-free Orcish Oriflame.
Yeah,
his deck was very good.
It was a good deck. I mean, I lost him in the finals. I drafted...
I felt like it was much closer to a proper limited format in the way that at least the way that I approached it. Especially with Arcube, we're so familiar with it. Everybody's got their favorite archetypes. You can go in, I want to draft this deck, I want to do the Wildfire thing, or the whatever, the Tinker deck. And then so I was like, okay, I'm just going to take removal, and I'm going to take mana fixing, and then I'll worry about everything else later. And I just took a bunch of, I had like Terror and Red Flesh and Sickening Shoal and, Crocent Tusker. And
you had a very interesting, you were Doran color, like, value deck.
I was green-black with the latest touch of white that was free.
Just a smidgen of white.
Just a touch of white, and it was free, which is why I did it.
It was ironic, because X deck had Golgari Keyrune, Celestia Keyrune, like Vessel of Endless Rests. You cut the Primal Growth.
It was but I had Crozon Tusker.
Yeah, your land was so good. He was also running Grim Backwoods and Volt of the Archangel.
I had green-black bounce land and green-white bounce land also.
Yeah, or you had Celestia Sanctuary and Golgari Rod Form. Yeah.
So my mana was very good. Good enough that I also ran Grim Backwoods and Volt of the Archangel.
Yeah, it was a very interesting deck. All the decks were interesting and fun in different ways. I mean, there's obviously all the double white bears that we just have cut from Cube from all the years.
There was definitely a lot of mono white aggro. There was also a lot of the storm components.
Well, the components were there. They got a little chopped up. I tried to draft Storm. I got the Tendrils midway through Pack 1. I got the Empty the Warrens partway through Pack 2. And we have the Time Spiral storage lands. So I was able to Expedition map for Dreadship Reef, or is it Boilerworks if I needed the red for my Empty the Warrens. Although in Game 1 of Round 1, I managed to toil and trouble my control opponent for 10 damage, because I targeted him with it, and then just Tendrils him for the other 10 in the same turn, which was really exciting.
I think all the decks
really
ended up
and unexpected.
All the decks ended up very good. We had a couple non-regulars, and they approached it pretty well, I felt. Nobody had what I would consider a dud. We had a very ambitious Twin Blade Slasher, Chandra's Phoenix, Phyrexian Obliterator.
You forgot about Violent Eruption. Yeah, there was the classic Phyrexian Obliterator.
Green 1-drop, triple red, quad black deck in a format with no mana fixing.
I played against that opponent in round 2. He won round 1. And then round 2... Oh, I also had the Pickles lock in my deck.
Yeah, you had all the combos.
I had a lot of sweet combos, because my Storm deck wasn't super good. Like, the most I ever stormed off for in a game was 7.
Only. That's a lot.
There's a lot of Storm?
That's...
I don't know, I thought it was a mediocre amount of Storm.
It was fun. It's definitely something we should do against it.
Yeah.
And it's also a good reminder of, man, this card's actually really sweet. This card's good.
The thing I like about kind of springing the on-deck cube or the minor league cube out on people was, maybe it changes your card evaluation a little bit. Maybe it reminds you of cards that you might have thought were good that you might have forgotten about entirely.
There's definitely some of that.
It was definitely an extension of what Eck was asking for. He was looking for cards. There's a lot of chatter in the.
It's entirely related to memory.
Yeah, is that guy overpowered? I feel like we've addressed this before. I definitely think that it kind of boils down to Planeswalkers are a sub-theme of Magic, especially limited Magic, and then a mill, let alone a mill 10 Planeswalker, almost is like a quick sub-game of a sub-game of Magic. And we all know what it's like to fork a Scheherazade, I'm sure.
Your opponent has to literally kill it on the turn that they untap following you casting it, or they're dead.
It's so weird, because Memory Depth, it doesn't really have a middle ground. Like, Memory Depth is not a card that has back and forth.
There's no play to it.
Yeah, I think that it either comes in and does stone nothing and has no impact on the game, or
because you're significantly behind.
Right, like a mill 10 will do nothing, or a draw 1 card for 5 mana will also do nothing.
Or it just literally ends the game and your opponent has no outs.
Exactly. There's no back and forth. I mean, so many of the Planeswalkers look like, especially the powerful ones, they look like they're so powerful they don't have play. But even like a card like Elspeth Night Errant, it's
even Karn has play to it.
Right.
Which is considered by many people one of the most powerful Planeswalkers, and certainly at the top end of most decks that play it.
And Karn is very easy to understand, because it's like +4, which is a ton of loyalty to not affect the board, or -3 to a reasonable loyalty to interact with, to theoretically have great impact on the board. It's very plainly written how that interaction can work, and thusly how Planeswalkers should interact with cards in a game. And Jace Memory Depth has none of that.
Anyway,
So
that was our afternoon, evening.
yeah, it was a fun one. I had Brian Elemental, the Suvin Shapeshifter, and my sweet blue-black Storm with a touch of red deck.
I definitely think it's good to keep that thing ready in case people get too complacent.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep it together. I don't know if I want to bring it back.
If it wasn't such a pain in the ass, it would be funny to just like slip random packs into a normal cube draft of the on deck cards.
I mean, I think it's a lot of fun because we get to play with stuff like Raging Cougar, the very nice Elvish Ranger artwork that has been signed by Therese Nielsen, that no one would really know about unless we brought it up here. And especially after, you should bring it up. You have the Gatherer there. You should show the people at home what we're looking at.
Sure.
But after hearing about things like Zombie Cube. And talking about things like Combo Cube, you just click on the other icon down there.
Yeah,
it should switch it.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
I really wanted to kind of have that experience where we like powered cubes so much, we like the interactions, we like the combo decks, we like the control decks, we like all the elements, but just to use a different part of our brain to do something different, something fun, worked out a lot. I mean, Vin, close friend, somebody who's very critical of competitive formats and really wants to just test himself a lot on the gameplay that is Magic. Had a lot of fun with this tonight. We're definitely playing with some suboptimal cube cards.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of really.
I mean, it's fun because
we own one of those.
What happens when the cards make the sideboard in this format?
Right.
Like, what is that really telling?
They're getting dropped down to like the Puerto Rican leagues or whatever. Like
sure,
they're getting shoved single A.
And Kenny, who's in chat and with us right now, had kind of joked with us. It's like why bother going through this whole rigmarole of minor league cube? Like, why don't you just bust out the Pauper cube? Like, why don't we just go that route instead of doing this?
Again, I've said before, if I'm going to actually if I'm going to put the effort forth into actually designing a cube, other than the Magic Box cube, I want to do Tribal Cube. That's where I want to build one next.
Interesting.
It would be a massive undertaking, and I haven't even really started even thinking about it. But I know that's what I would want to do if it was like, hey, you need to build a cube for some reason.
I think that could be fun. It could be similar to a Pack to Power scenario if we took the show another direction and started the build cube process.
Right.
Well, especially because we have
it'd be like a DIY home, like This Old House, but for this old cube.
This Old House,
like Bob Vila.
There's no one in the chat right now, but what percentage of our audience even thinks is going to have any idea?
Nobody. All right.
Anyway,
I'm not considerably older than our audience, am I?
No, you're not. I think the irony is that it was what your family watched when you were growing up.
I mean, my mother's from Nebraska, so the standards for entertainment are relative.
I know who Bob Vila is, so you got me there.
All right. Let's look at the pack.
God, is the day over in the sunlight for the cube, for the runner-up cube?
No, it'll come back. We'll do a show on it. It'll be a feature you get.
To finish the thought, I like minor league cube because again, there's no overlap. I think if we were to make a Pauper cube, we'd have overlap in the cards we already play with, and I like the idea of us not having that.
Yeah.
What do you think was the worst card you saw today in minor league cube?
Oh God, the worst. I mean, other than circles of protection.
All 5 circles of protection were in this cube. 2 of them were hacked by players who thought they couldn't beat them.
I'm not gonna lie, I took a green one.
Yeah, and none of them got played today, despite the fact that they were okay. They would have been great.
Elvish Ranger might have been one of the worst cards.
That was played. So that guy and the Hinterland Hermit were both played in the deck that 3-0'd.
Yeah.
I had to. I broken ambitions that Elvish Ranger at one point today, and
deep.
Yeah,
deep cut.
And I definitely had a Hinterland Hermit start going off on me. The red-green aggro deck was hilarious.
Hinterland Hermit was doing work, I'm not going to
lie.
Yeah. Okay. Now that we've got... can we
I think it's... who knows the next time we'll bring it back.
Yeah. I think
I want to spring up...
I should put I'm going to put the list on the website at some point. That way everyone can know what we're talking about.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's much like...
I'll put it on Cube Tutor.
Much...
That's so much work.
Much like what you need to do is you need to take all the hours you would have spent doing that and fixing the versions of the cards on the Cube Tutor cube.
And pimping. It's
not about pimping. It's about having the right artwork on a lot of this stuff.
It's funny. I actually had an email correspondence with Ben, the guy who runs Cube Tutor, because I could never get a draft to finish. It would go maybe a pack and then fail. I would click cards and they wouldn't pick.
Okay.
And I finally was just like, this is silly. everyone else could draft. I can't. What's the deal? So I emailed him about it, and he got back to me, and we worked out the problem. I sent him my error logs for Java, and back and forth, and figured it out. But then, while I was talking to him, I was like, "Well, I have you on email. If I could request a feature, being able to mass select cards and choose foil or original printing and stuff." He's like, "You're not the first person to ask about that. Actually, it's a technical limitation. He's working on it, but it's not there yet."
So you're holding out.
I'm like, well, he said. I mean, at some point, but
I'm a black border.
Someone in chat asked how big is this cube. To answer that question, every card that can be foiled is foiled, and every card that is not foiled is original printing.
Well,
except for some of the power.
That's mostly true. Take a card like Icy Manipulator, for example. There's a foil version of that card, but we don't run that.
Right, we run that.
We run the alpha version.
Yeah, we run the alpha.
100 times out of 100, it's black border because you want black border cards. Like Imperial Recruiter, we wouldn't add the $250 white bordered Portal 3K version over the black border English,
right?
Especially because the artwork's still the same.
Yeah.
But it's English only. It's black border whenever possible. Pretty much alpha beta whenever possible. Just because
if something only has one printing, it's almost exclusively foiled.
Sure.
Unless it's not. If there is a foil, they're almost always it's almost always in there.
See, that's true. That the chat is the foreign language cards are such a pain in the butt. And it's funny.
There is a Ravages of War.
Yeah,
the cube list is on the website and also in ours. Links on the page.
It's making the rounds.
There's a link in the channel info.
When we started cubing, I think a lot of people were really into foreign language cubes, and that was it's just not the way to do it.
It's just how do you have anyone new play with your cube if all cards are foiled?
And it's not even about new players. I mean, people that play Magic for 4 or 5 years at this point can sit down at a cube and be like, I don't know what that does. I don't get it.
Especially because a lot of cube cards are not things that are currently played in any other format.
Right, they're not even necessarily legacy cards all the time. I mean,
yeah.
there was a kind of a middling ground there where it was the answer was, oh no, there's just cards you play in legacy.
Right,
I can have a Korean
show. It's
just
a vintage deck that you take. It's 6 vintage decks.
I can have a Korean show and tell you you're supposed to know what that card does anyway.
Yeah, and now it's not that way at all.
No, so yeah, we'll have to flush out. I don't know even know what to call it. It's not. Is it Reject Cube?
I think it's Minor League.
I like Minor League Cube. I kind of like.
Or figure out what league of the baseball minor league system we can apply to it.
It's great because there's not a lot of dual lands. It's all it's much more like a basic limited set.
Yeah, it's spring training kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. And again, it will evolve because cards will come out of the on-deck cube.
Right, that cube's going to get updated in once we show the list.
We're going to take some of the cards we played with out of it tonight and put them on the real cube. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
But I think we've done the topic justice.
Come
covered
It'll
what
come
I
back.
feel like.
We'll do a show about it. It'll be great.
Again, I want to spring. A lot of people didn't show up this week that I would expect to show up, and
they missed out.
I have another opportunity to spring on them over. They're behind the curve now. You guys all drafted it tonight, or anyway.
We'll do that one for Bunny.
Going back to the real cube, and this is going to throw us for a loop because we were looking at bad cards for the last 4 hours.
We got to pick one, pack one, and we need to figure out real quick. We need to reevaluate. So get your mind right. Here's the fact: Doomblade, Obstinate Baloth, Solemn Simulacrum, Terramorphic Expanse, Koth of the Hammer, Savannah, Confiscate, Burning of Xinyi, Dimir Keyrune, Kargan Dragonlord, Dryad Arbor, Steplinks, Firemane Avenger, Debtor's Knell, Paladin Invec. What do we like here?
This is another one of those you could just take Koth of the Hammer type packs. I feel like
you're trying to craft packs that have Koth as defensible for his pick.
I don't know. I feel like this is the second or third week in a row where there's just a random Koth with not a lot else to talk about. I mean, obviously,
is it weird to want to take Burning of Xinyi here?
It's kind of weird.
Really?
It's kind of weird.
I think the Wildfire deck is good if you can get all the pieces together, and getting one of the Wildfires early and then building around it is a very strong way to go.
All right, I think it's a little bold. I mean, what are you gonna do? Do you table Paladin and Vec for the
Koth
for the no dices?
Table that Koth.
Man, if that's your plan, then take the Kargan Dragonlord.
No, I want to play the Wildfire deck. I don't want to play the Monterey Aggro deck.
All right.
And if I'm taking the Kargan Dragonlord, then I'm not tabling anything out of this pack because I don't want to play Koth in that deck.
All right, so you're taking Burning.
I kind of like Burning. I talk a lot. People ask, how do you evaluate? What's your first picks look like? And there's a lot of value in staying open, right? A lot of times, even just taking the dual land out of this pack and not committing to anything is certainly a valuable option. And something that is completely defensible. You don't want to make a commitment early. You want to see where it develops. You can take a card you're likely going to play. Keeps your options open. But there's also a lot of benefit in moving on a deck early that you feel is underdrafted. So I feel like the Wildfire deck is very underdrafted. I see it maybe once every 2 drafts or 3, 2.5.
More like 3 these days. But
Yeah.
I think the people that try to draft it kind of get lost in the middle right now.
Right.
And it ends up like not happening.
It's not the easiest deck to put together, but if you kind of get the laser focus on it early, especially if you get the key components, i.e. the Wildfires and things like that, early on, you can really benefit because you're going to be able to lap a lot of cards. The cards you're going to be able to take in, 9th through 12th place in packs are going to be things that you can find useful, whereas in other decks you might just have total blanks.
Okay.
So I kind of like looking at trying, being in a deck that's underdrafted and trying to focus on that early. I think like right now my obsession, the green-black Oath of Ghouls, Oversold Cemetery, Sacrifice Graveyard deck. I think that deck is underdrafted. So if I see the parts for it early, I'm just snap going on it, and I'm getting Reassembling Skeletons 13th and jamming them in the main deck and being really happy about it. So you can get rewarded by kind of choosing to jump in the pool that nobody else is in a way that even staying open doesn't necessarily allow you to do.
Okay. Well, if you're going to go balls deep on it now, right out of the gate, it's not a bad time to do it. That is not for me right here. I mean, it's tempting to take a Confiscate because it's the only blue card, but I think it's a take the Koth, wheel the Dragon Lore scenario for me here. And if I was going to take Mana Fixing, I'll tell you what card is never getting left behind and is always spectacular, and that's Terramorphic Expanse / Evolving Wilds.
There are certainly times where I'm not thrilled to be playing them, but I'm never not playing them unless I'm a monocolored deck. And even then, I'd also have to have no landfall.
Right, and
so like in the mono red deck, I will still play Terramorphic Expanse if I had played a GOP.
Right,
but maybe not if I don't.
Yeah. So burning for Eck, Koth of the Hammer for myself this week.
Yeah,
man. And I never even get to draft that deck, and yet I sit here every week and talk about Koth.
Talk about Koth. Maybe that's why you don't draft the deck, because you keep advocating Koth instead of the good cards for it.
No, I took Kargan. Oh, sorry. I mean, I meant I take Kargan Dragon Lord because the Koth will wheel.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Good answer. Good
answer. Sorry, Kargan Dragon Lord is just better.
Okay, so now for our first saucy scenario of the week. This is a good one. So for our picks, in order we have drafted so far: Sol Ring, Maloku the Clouded Mirror, Power Sink, Miscalculation, and the pack we now are past contains the following: Spikeshot Elder, Progenitor Mimic, Sorin Lord of Innistrad, Faith's Fetters, Kozilek Butcher of Truth, Goblin Ruin Blaster, Gitu Encampment, Hearth Kami, Banefire, Elixir of Immortality, Sphinx's Revelation.
So it seems like this is a very easy time to just continue to jack it with X spells.
Yeah, I can't see the argument for taking a card over Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I hate Sphinx's Revelation as a Magic card.
Really?
Oh my god. I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong.
Casting it is like one of the most satisfying feelings.
Is it? Anytime I do it,
I'm going to draw all these cards. I'm going to gain all this life.
Anytime I do it in a would-be limited format, it feels so masturbatory. It's so like, oh, you thought you were going to win this game?
That's what Cube is, though. Cube is just jerking it off in front of friends. And competitive jerking.
So, again, I'm not going to say you're wrong, because, yes, you're probably taking Sphinx's Revelation here. You're already holding 2 counter spells and a Soul Ring.
It's just, yeah. I mean,
I can't make arguments. I can't. You can't make an argument for anything else in this pack.
Yeah. I wish there...
Never tap out.
Yeah.
Counter spells, gain life, draw cards, eventually cast Maloku, and then upheaval all your lands and kill them.
Yeah.
This is your deck.
Yeah. It's funny because once you take Sphinx's Revelation, it just feels like you're so locked in.
That's also annoying about this scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you have Soul Ring.
Oh,
having
cool.
Soul Ring here is absolutely huge because you're playing
that makes so much of the deck work.
Yeah. This one's a bit underwhelming. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of really from here you're crafting a deck. You're crafting a blue control deck. It's going to be a slow deck. Be aware of that. I wish I could say that, you should value cards like Path to Exile and Swords of Plowshares higher, but those are cards you should be taking right out of the gate anyway.
Yeah.
So don't take a bunch of middling blue-white creatures that you have to tap out on your own turn.
This is not the deck for
Blade Splicer.
Or Revelar.
Hero or Blade Hold.
Or Revelar.
Oh, it's still a Revelar deck.
You get back Moloku.
Yeah, you get back Moloku. But you're obviously discarding to your Forbid because you can keep Forbid in your hand. And you're just like...
That's deep. This is not a deck where you want... I mean, I don't even know if I would want a card like Sower of Temptation in this deck.
Thankfully, Sower of Temptation is on the queue.
Oh, it was in the draft tonight, though. See, I'm all turned around. I'm all backwards. My mind is
I love it.
out of here.
I love it. It's just great. It's
So,
exactly what I wanted. I'm so glad we recorded after the draft today.
I know. End of the pack, though.
Oh, yeah, Sphinx of Revelation, unanimous decision.
Windmill.
Unexciting.
Second scenario we have got today. Another sweet one. Cards we have so far. Windswept Heath, Stoneforge Mystic, Fiend Hunter, Mimic Vat. The pack we are past. Stillmoon Cavalier, Gravecrawler, Mortarpod, Force Spike, Swans of Bryn Argol, Keldon Vandals, Aura of Silence, Earthquake, Naturalize, Remove Soul, Natural Order.
Huh. Well, I think this is not a trap, nor is it like a setup. But here's an opportunity to take an equipment that's very low on the equipment totem pole for your Stoneforge Mystic to try to justify playing it. Or to just probably take a card that's just a higher power level card.
See, I disagree. I think Mortarpod is actually quite good, and this is one of the best groupings of cards we could have for it. I like Mortarpod in most decks, which is, I just have an affinity for that card, and I really like Stoneforge Mystic, but I really like Stoneforge Mystic in decks where it's never going to be a Squire.
That is key for Stoneforge Mystic. I mean, you can definitely, let's say you pass that Mortarpod, you could go the rest of the draft not seeing another equipment ever.
Well, or
you could also go see the rest
one.
of the draft. Yeah, seeing a grafted war gear
or conversely, even if you get a sword, say,
whatever. Or one Stoneforge Mystic and one sword is always going to make your deck.
Right, but it's also very frustrating or lackluster to then draw the sword because you're now literally playing Squire in your cube deck.
Yeah, at least you have a creature to equip your sword to.
I just like having more equipment options.
All right. So
also, we have a Mimic Vat, so we can make tokens, slap them onto Mortarpod, and throw them.
Extract more value.
Yeah.
So you're taking Mortarpod not close?
I mean, the only reason it's close is because there's just not a whole lot of more powerful cards in this pack. Stillmoon Cavalier is a card that got brought up in chat just now, and Stillmoon is okay, but not stellar. It's pretty slow, and there are times where it is impossible for your opponent to deal with, and the rest of the time it's pretty easy for them to stop. And it's going to take you a lot of mana, potentially, to go one way or the other with it. I think Mortarpod's always going to make a deck with Stoneforge Mystic in it. I think that we already have a Mimic Vat to kind of get a little synergy there. It doesn't commit us to a second color at all, which I know Stoneforge doesn't, or Stillmoon doesn't, but as opposed to taking a card like Earthquake or something, or Remove Soul. Yeah, I like my Stoneforge decks to have 4 equipment in them, personally.
Well, who doesn't?
What I'm saying is I'm willing to play less than top tier equipment once I have Stoneforge. And some people aren't.
Cube. You'd like to think that there's not a whole lot of wiggle room between the top tier and the would-be bottom tier in terms of equipment, and I think that's true. I think that kind of the rule of thumb when you see Stoneforge Mystic is take equipment.
Sure.
However, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate here. I'm gonna say I'm gonna take that Remove Soul out of this pack, and I'm gonna play.
You just can't stop. We need to get you an Azorius pin, or a shirt, or a hoodie.
Sure, I'd take a hoodie.
A hat.
The winter is coming.
You already have an A on your hat. Maybe we could design it into
a Z.
Well, instead of an AS, we flip the S around, make it a Z.
Yeah.
I
think they have a hat like that.
I bet they do. If not,
it's the Arizona Diamond. There's some kind of Arizona team, I'm sure, that has that.
Well, yeah, the snakes.
Yeah, taking Remove Soul and my thought process behind taking Remove Soul is I'm going to play like a blue-white tempo deck to get some value out of my guys. A Fiend Hunter as removal, and I'm going to counter their good stuff. Because I play blue all the time. So.
Yeah. You need like electroshock therapy to get you off of blue or something.
Okay, in the last 4 weeks of real cubing, I've drafted 3 red-blue decks and 1 Rug Oath deck.
Okay.
I drafted the Rug Oath
So
deck.
you have not played, and you played blue tonight.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so you have gone more. It has been more than a month since you have played a deck without an island in it.
During our would-be sanctioned cube matches, yes.
Which is clearly what we're talking
Tonight,
about on our Cube podcast.
Tonight, I opened Rewind, pick one, pack one, then took Dismiss, then took Jace's Archivist.
That should give you an idea of what this format looked like, also, for everybody.
4-mana counterspell, 4-mana counterspell, 3-mana Windfall creature. Pretty good. What was my next pick? Can't remember.
I just played some removal, and it was good. So,
I think I got like the 6th pick. Tendrils of Agony. Anyway, go on.
So, we've been talking a lot about Theros spoilers for the last few weeks. We've been going through, the initial leaks of a few cards, and then the floodgates have slowly opened. We're at the point now where the entire set's out. It was officially spoiled by Wizards on Monday.
Or Friday, depending on if you play MTGO.
Very true. So, the set's been totally out. I had a couple people ask if we were going to review the rest of the cards. The answer is no, if only because the vast majority of the cards that we did not see already are commons or uncommons. There wasn't. I mean, we looked through it. There wasn't anything that even.
I mean, of the
passing glance
of the things that were shown to us last, was there any card that we even considered for Cube?
Of that last bunch.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if we ever exchanged any correspondence. We were like, "Oh, did you see that guy?" I don't think so.
No.
I mean, we'll find out real soon.
I'm sure. I'm sure we're gonna get some people talking to us about it. But with that said, now that we've seen all the cards from Theros, we can combine what we want to make the changes of from Theros with the old cards that we want to bring back and try new things with to present. So this is going to be the first revision of the Theros update. So disclaimer: this will change. Probably not too much. But there will be some adjustments.
Before the behind the scenes status here is 6 weeks before, well, no, like 4 weeks before Theros spoilers start, we start to come up with ideas of non-Theros related things we might be interested in changing.
And a lot of it is cards that we find are not working.
Yeah,
we usually find cuts before we find ads.
Right.
Well,
it depends on who you are.
Right.
He finds cuts, I find ads.
In the case of trying to add archetypes or buff archetypes, so to speak, we'll try and find ads first. But
we start with a skeleton list there, and then we slowly start to incorporate in Theros cards we like, and then I'll usually mock up a in for out scenario. We'll bounce it off the inner circle of people that we play with a lot, and we get kind of a rough draft that I then push out to more people and be like, "What would you think about this?" We get some feedback from there. So hopefully by release day, we are pretty much locked into changes we want to make,
which is good because you don't want to wait too long because some of these foils go through the roof in price.
Yeah.
So also for the benefit of the live video audience, I managed to mock up.
Yeah, Eck has mocked up the changes this time.
If you've been a viewer of the show for a while, the last couple updates has been looking at an Excel spreadsheet while we talk, which is not as exciting as it could be.
Live video.
Yeah, so obviously the audio side, you will notice no difference. However, on the video side, it'll be a little bit nicer.
The conversation might be different. We don't know.
So let's go into it right now.
Is there a tiny us in this one?
Yeah.
Oh.
I worked everything
out. Look at that!
All right. So
this is going to be Wooburg order.
So we're going to go in color order.
And
we'll go one at a time.
I guess we'll just kind of go over some thought process here.
Yeah.
Maybe who's into this one, who's not into this one.
So first up on the list, Steplings becoming Soldier of the Pantheon.
Savannah Lions are still good. Just in case everyone didn't know, Savannah Lions are still good.
Steplings, to me, fell off too fast.
I don't know. I feel like the whole aggressive landfall creatures thing is a second time around failed experiment.
Yeah. It just never.
I think when Zendikar came out, we made that move to aggressive creatures.
At least play the GOP is a 1/1 first strike all the time.
Right, and that is relevant.
Step Lakes is like very embarrassing if you miss.
Play the GOP will often like attack in with the team and then like block to kill it, and that like extra 2 points of damage off of like Stagger Shock or something will like keep the GOP to lie. Like things happen with play the GOP. Lynx is just never getting it done.
Martial Coup for Elspeth, Champion of the Sun.
Sun's Champion?
I
don't remember what it is.
Something like that.
Anyway,
the new Elspeth.
It's not so
Sun's Champion.
Yeah, it's not so much about cutting a wrath effect, which was what some people were advocating, as much as taking a very expensive token generator that can warp the game and switching it for a slightly less expensive token generator that can warp the game.
Yeah, I think that Martial Coup is just very, very pricey. I very rarely see that card ever get cast for less than 5.
Yeah, if you're casting it for if you're
2 or 3, like things have gone very.
If X is 2 or 3, you are not losing for another turn or 2.
Yeah,
you're never like, ooh, all my crusades.
That certainly seems very powerful, and she's going to do a similar thing to Martial Coup, albeit broken into several turns.
Right. Now, do you want to tell the people at home what your initial request was for this swap, or?
Gideon, Champion of Justice for Elspeth Sun's Champion, and that was mostly because Gideon is hot garbage. And I'm going to have that written on my goddamn tombstone. But
I will only give credence to this statement because I like the idea of doing a Planeswalker for Planeswalker swap, if ever possible. It seems like it's almost impossible, but in this particular circumstance, the two cards just don't really match up well together. And Gideon, Champion of Justice, to me, is still a creature. It's a Calciderm type creature that does other things. That's right. I keep saying.
And my counter argument is we cut Calciderm literal years ago, so that's a horrible comparison to make.
All right.
Going on. Jace's Ingenuity is becoming deep analysis.
A lot of people just hate on Jace's Ingenuity all day, saying there's a lot of other ways to draw 3 cards in Cube.
I like this. I mean, Jace, it costs 5. I know it's an instant, but it just never felt like I was really happy to have it.
I gotta tell you, in the last 5 weeks where I've drafted nothing but islands, I have cast this card many times.
I'm sure you have. It's a blue card. It's clearly very good.
I've revealed it off Delver Secrets many times.
However, Deep Anal, it plays well with the graveyard stuff that we're trying to do more of. It's a little more flexible. I know it's a sorcery, but it's also splashable. You can fit it in more decks. And it's a card that's been in before. It kind of goes in and out over time. And
yeah, Deep Analysis has definitely been one of those cards that has a revolving door with Cube. And here, breaking down the math, this is a 4 cards for 1 card scenario, and it's also the opportunity to abuse more of the would-be Czar Baghdad style shenanigans coming up in the future.
Circular Logic is becoming Treasure Hunt, and this is part of an experiment that we are undertaking.
So for pretty much ever since Treasure Hunt was released, it's been always like not in the cube, and it would be nice to have, but it's never spectacular. And now that we are adding in Zombie Infestation, which we'll get to in a little while.
Spoilers, man.
I know, spoilers of the spoilers.
You're lucky we're not talking about Breaking Bad. People will freak out.
So again, the people already talking trash about this in the chat. It's not about how good Treasure Hunt is in a vacuum. It's about Treasure Hunt being a literal component of a deck that also is never a dead draw and can be just a spell in decks that play blue cards.
Treasure Hunt definitely falls into the let's wait and see how this goes.
Yeah, Treasure Hunt is
There are a few changes in every update that we do where they are kind of shots in the dark. And I don't want to say that entirely like, oh, we're just throwing shit at the wall. But some of them are definitely like, these are more theoretical changes than obvious, like, clearly better.
So think about cards like Debtors now. Think about cards like the obvious inclusion of Seismic Assault. But there are definitely cards that you look at them in a vacuum on power level and you're like, it's just not there. It's just not as high as a cube would be. And you're like, oh, you got to look at the bigger picture here. You got to look that you're drafting a format to build a deck, and Treasure Hunt is going to fit into those decks. It's going to do stuff. It's going to be good.
We'll see. It all depends on whether or not it gets drafted. Ancient Craving is becoming Read the Bones.
I would just like to stop and point out, despite the fact that we're like proposing a 36 card change, we've already busted through 2 colors.
Yeah, it's fast. These colors are smaller. The other colors are bigger later. I really like Read the Bones. I'm not a big fan of the 4 mana draw 3 lose 3 effect in black. Anything to keep that curve down in black. Scry, I think, is very good.
Yeah,
Less life loss.
Eck had also proposed the removal of ambitions cost for Knight's Whisper. Now, obviously, there's another conversation point saying, like, Knight's Whisper versus Read the Bones. Is Read the Bones really like the Black 4C at only 3 mana?
Yeah.
I'm all around in favor of this card and the experiment of trying it out. And I'm also still in the camp of Black's going to want card advantage, Black's still a control color, and it's happy to pay 3 for 3 as opposed to only 2 for 2 if it only has a 1-shot at those.
Yeah.
So that's where we stand on that one for now. It could go either way with this kind of experiment, but I'm happy to see Read the Bones exist.
Mutilate is becoming, as we were talking about, zombie infestation. Mutilate never really did anything.
A few updates ago, we tried to bring in more damnation-style effects. We tried to make Black more of that control color that it has been in years past, where we were adding in more of the ambitions cost type magic cards and trying to back them up with the more barter and blood Mutilate type cards as well. Mutilate is kind of the bottom of the barrel still. Very few decks ever play it. It's very obvious when you would play it. Zombie Infestation opens up a lot of new territory, not only with the potential Treasure Hunt theme deck, but also with Bazaar of Baghdad type deck interactions, and hopefully a new resurgence of the zombie tribe in Cube.
Victim of Night is becoming Hero's Downfall in one of the easiest upgrades of all time.
This one
we don't play Murder. If we played Murder, it would have done that.
We would have looked like hobos if we were playing Murder, so this
Right.
one was real easy.
Yeah, so that one, hopefully no one really needs to ask too many questions about why that card's coming in. The next one, Kikusho, the Evening Star, becoming Vengeful Pharaoh. And this is one that people in chat have already been
This
chattering
was the
about.
weakest tease of the night so far. Not all. So, Vengeful Pharaoh is interesting. I actually remember talking about it when the set with Vengeful Pharaoh first
I remember
came out.
we were driving somewhere, and I was looking at the spoiler on my phone, and I had to read that card like 4 times out loud before everyone figured out what it did. I think that at this point, and again, this might be the like spiraling into obsession that I've been doing lately, but anything where I can get value out of my graveyard, I'm on board. I want flashback. I want stuff to come back. Reassembling skeleton, get in there.
So for the audio audience at home, brief refresher, because I'm sure you're not at all familiar with this card. Triple black and 2 colorless gets you a 5/4 Death Touch zombie. That if Vengeful Pharaoh is in your graveyard and a creature deals combat damage to you, you may put Vengeful Pharaoh on the top of your library. If you do, destroy that creature.
Correct.
So it's like a one.
If they attack, you get one of their attackers. You do not get all of them, and you put it on top of your library.
And it's a reciprocate style effect, so the creature deals damage to you first.
Correct.
But you do get to kind of like donkey punch him after it's over.
Yes. So if you can continually put it in your graveyard, perhaps with Zombie Infestation, you can constantly put it back on top and constantly get their attackers, which makes racing obviously very difficult, which is a spot that black deck especially wants to be in. The black graveyard deck right now is very grindy, and this is a kind of repeatable effect of getting value out of your yard that it wants.
And eventually you get a 5-power Death Touch guy when you're
Right.
ready to convert from defense to offense.
Right, and it makes it difficult to race because even if they can deal with the Pharaoh, if they attack you, he's coming back.
Right. Yeah. This is definitely an archetype related card, but I think it's a strong enough one, and we want to make Bazaar of Baghdad healthy. That this is something we're definitely going to look into, and who knows, this could give even just more of the mono black strategies a new angle of attack.
Alright. Next page here. Thrill Kill Assassin is becoming Tormented Hero. This is a change that I did not really put any voice into. Personally, Thrill Kill's fine. 2/1s for 1 are fine.
I do like the Liliana the Veil Vengeful Pharaoh interaction too. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
That's a nice one. That's a nice one. I think this one really boiled down to it actually had most to do with the one right after it, but another Carnophage style creature here, another Diagraph Ghoul style creature here, and humans becoming a real tribe, a real thing in the cube. An opportunity to run another 1-mana aggressive guy while scaling down a 2-mana aggressive guy. Thrill Kill Assassin has not been the defensive powerhouse that we theorized it could have been.
It's been okay. I feel like it's a role player in a number of decks, but I'm never taking it very highly.
No.
I am never not lapping that card.
Right.
So,
no one is ever like, oh, Thrill Kill Assassin.
So maybe
yes.
people are going to go, 2 power for 1 mana.
That's
So,
just what I need. Get in my life. Or
Uh,
I have all of the bandages again, because
Yes.
it
All
does have a heroic trigger, which may or may not ever come up.
albeit minor.
Yeah, so we have that for us.
Okiba King Shinobi is becoming Zathrid Necromancer, and this one really was more. People are like, "Oh, finally! I can't believe you haven't played that card already." This was really more of one of research and breaking down the human count, things like that. When we finally looked at it, the number of humans in Cube right now is pretty high on our list. My count had it at around 63, and it's only going up because they just keep printing more and more playable humans and fewer of other tribes. And again, the sacrifice, just value guy sacrifice kind of effect.
We talked about Zathrid Necromancer a little bit recently. I know that Eck has been very interested in that card, and I've been very put off of it. I mean, when we did the M14 set review, I was like, lot rolling animator is so narrow, and it never happened. But this just seems like almost like an investment.
Cleric versus human is not a fair fight.
An investment in the future. As good as Stormkirk Noble continues to get, I think that Zathrid Necromancer will get similarly powerful and could even become its own kind of theme deck in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it's with that hand.
Sacrificing, like the sacrifice deck, is already kind of a sub theme of the graveyard deck, and that plays really well into that. That guy off Recurring Nightmare is going to be filthy the first time that happens.
So again, a lot of these things tie together.
Yeah.
I think you'll kind of see.
It's a very synergistic card, which I think is what I'm a big fan of. Moving on from black to red, Earthquake, long Cube veteran from day one, finally leaving, becoming Goblin Bombardment. Speaking of sacrifice effects, this is another synergy style decision. Earthquake is pretty redundant and not all that commonly played anymore.
See, the thing about Earthquake, again, back in the Dragon Cube days, long ago, it was a finisher. You'd hit your opponent a couple of times with some guys and then Quake for 10.
Yeah.
And nowadays, the guy holding Earthquake is trying to not die, and it's not...
Maybe I can cast it for 3 and live.
Yeah, and like, oh man, then your other guy doesn't die, and I gotta find a way to block it. Yeah, anyway, we're kind of going around in different directions here, so we're already the next cat after that is helping us kind of pick up the slack for Earthquake. But the decks that wanted Earthquake nowadays are much more control, slower decks, and Earthquake's too much for liability.
And they still have Rolling Earthquake, because one of the most frustrating things in the world was Earthquake would staring down, say, Lingering Souls tokens. So Rolling Earthquake kind of covering all the bases, Saiyan's Horsemanship, which is nothing in our cube.
Meanwhile, Goblin Bombardment, another enchantment opportunity, another sacrifice outlet opportunity. It feels like win-win here.
Yeah, definitely a card I'm looking forward to playing. Fiery Temper is becoming Anger of the Gods. The sweepers of this nature are all very good. Spike Storm sees regular play. Fire Spout sees regular play.
We just kind of draw the line at something like Flame Break.
Flame Break being triple red and also having the issue of hitting players, which is not really what that deck wants to do. This is kind of a card for decks like Wildfire and Red-White. It's just good in any red-based control deck.
Oh yeah,
Exiling is becoming more relevant this time around.
All of my Izzet burn decks from the last 3 weeks would have loved to have had access to this card against the green beatdown deck. So I like it a lot.
Yeah. Skullcrack is becoming Lightning Strike. Skullcrack just never... It seemed like one of those cards where the aggro red mage is going to get you with it, and it just never really seemed to happen.
One time, I attacked with a Phantom of Shova against my mono red opponent, thinking like, haha, game over.
Hey,
I'm going to gain 7. And you're not
cracked
gonna He cracked me. That was the one time in the months that Skullcrack has been in the queue.
I think I've seen Skullcrack prevent a total of maybe 15 life points gained. It doesn't just come up all that often. Lightning Strike, obviously very good. If the preventing life gain is not relevant, then hitting creatures certainly is. This is an easy change. Cards like this, it is a lot like the Landwar Elves discussion. Just like, how many times can they print this card before we don't play them?
Yeah, I mean, it's already been brought up that we're cutting out the Circular Logic Fiery Temper experiment again. Fiery Temper is a fine card. Circular Logic is a little bit more even situational, I feel like.
Yeah.
And Zombie Infestation was not really how we're turning on Madness anyway.
Yeah. Price of Progress is becoming Reckless Charge. Price of Progress was another one of those cards that seemed great on paper and never really did the job that we wanted it to do.
And even when you thought, it's not quite doing the job we want it to do, it's still got to be a sideboard all-star. It's still got to just like come in and wreck matches, and it never does.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had games and situations where I have hit opponents for 8 with that card, and it's been good. But more commonly, you don't see the days of the 5-color decks that play 17 non-basics are kind of past us. People are much more focused, at least in our playgroup. People are much more aware of what's going on. They're not just taking every dual land. So it's hard to get someone. It's hard to catch someone who only has like 2 islands and a forest in their deck and just blow them out.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Reckless Charge is kind of not only a callback, but also hopefully a plan for the future if powerful heroic cards ever get printed. Mm-hmm. A card like Reckless Charge could be doing even more than it could potentially be doing right now.
Right. A flashbackable target spell you actually want to cast on your own creatures is kind of a rarity.
And there's also the chance you could mill it with Oath of Druids and then cast it.
Yeah. Or discard it to Bizarre Baghdad.
Then cast it.
Yeah. Give that Icarus haste. Oh, wait. It already has haste. Tid Street Hooligan is becoming Ash Zealot. I feel like the cutting of Ash Zealot was a mistake from the beginning, but I'm glad to have it back.
So in Minor League Cube tonight, Casey actually flashed back the Reckless Charge in his graveyard on his Ash Zealot.
Yeah, that happened. I was there. Ash Zealot is just a premier. It's a premier level aggressive red 2-drop. You compare it to a card like Slith Firewalker. Ash Zealot outpaces it unless you get to attack with Slith Firewalker 4 times unmolested, which almost never happens. So, and the bonus graveyard effect becoming more relevant as we, go do more and more things with the graveyard moving forward. I don't think anyone's arguing. Tid Street Hooligan was fine. I feel like the Uktabi Orangutan effect in Cube is very present if you want it, and especially because it required green, you have a very easy access to it if you need it. So, yeah.
An effect that's very well represented right now, and we didn't need to take an extra step to do so. While we've yet to hit maximum capacity on red aggressive cards.
Yeah. Covetous Dragon is becoming Murderous Redcap. Covetous Dragon worked like twice.
I think everyone was so afraid.
Right.
That no one ever wanted to pull the
fear
trigger
of the drawback. That's for sure.
The thing about Covetous Dragon is, it would usually win games in which someone would cast it. No one ever had the balls to cast it.
I agree. I had it, and it was good. And I definitely cast Wildfire while it was in play.
And won that game.
Yeah. But it just never seemed to come together for anybody else. And
it seems like forced nostalgia at this point,
it's also very narrow. It's
what? Artifacts are good. Dragons are good. How not narrow?
It's pretty narrow.
It's like requirement heavy. No one's like jamming the turn 3 Darksteel Ingot and jamming the turn 4.
Right. That would be good.
It would be good. Yeah. I agree. These are things that could have happened that no one ever did.
Redcap being a hybrid card obviously is good. Hybrid mana, very good for Cube.
We're one step closer to like jacking it with Malira, which would be pretty abysmal. But all the components are there.
Malira is just a bit too deep.
I agree. Meanwhile, Murderous Redcap is just a value guy all over the place.
Yeah, comes back with Revelar.
Oh yeah.
Lets you sacrifice to Recurring Nightmare or Goblin Bombardment, all kinds of wacky stuff. He'll be very good, and he was a card that was in before and got cut. I'm sure people will be happy to see him back.
I forgot how many red cards. There's like 10 red cards.
A lot of red cards. Goblin Settler is becoming Fulminator Mage. This is more of a change to speed.
Speeding things up, bringing a little color variety back as well. Redcap's been out of the Cube for a long time. Sorry. I obviously love Goblin Settler. When I'm not drafting blue, I'm usually drafting LD. But after years and years and years of being this 1 for 4, it's time to diversify things up a little bit, try to become a little more aggressive. And Fulminator Mage, especially with the more recursive effects with your with your Oath of Ghouls, with your
recurring
oversold
recurring
cemeteries.
Fulminator Mage with oversold cemeteries is very fun.
It has been gross. So yeah, that's a thing.
Molten Steel Dragon is becoming Perforos, god of the
Forge.
Yeah, the Forge. Red god. Molten Steel was one of those cards that was always okay.
He was another one of those, like, people don't want to, like, push in on that card. Good evening, Usman, by the way. Thank you for showing up. People were afraid to go kind of, like, put their chips in the middle with Molten Steel
Especially
Dragon.
but I'm not playing red. I mean, I know I could play him, but I'm gonna have to pay all my life. So, even then, you just didn't see a ton of play. I think Perforos is a card that's going to work in a number of spots. It's a very powerful effect.
I mean, we've talked about it a lot on the show already. I mean, everywhere you look, everywhere you're turning, and you're going to see people, hear people talking about these cards. So we don't need to say anything else. I mean, this is, to me, far and away the best god in a vacuum, the best one for the cube format, the one that's going to do the most without being pandered to and catered to. That's all that's really happened. And Eck is answering questions in the chat for everyone listening after the fact. So yeah, we've been a long time removed from Murderous Redcap, but we're back. So we lost Goblin Settler. We're now,
to answer our chat question a little more in depth, the reason we cut Murderous Redcap is because at the time in which he got cut, he was very slow and very 5/5 and 6/6 oriented, i.e. Dragons and Titans was all anyone was playing. And Murderous Redcap's ability was very irrelevant.
Yeah, he was maybe shocking a guy, and then, like...
There's often nothing...
His persist wasn't doing anything.
Right, there's often nothing to like, get creative with him, and his 2 damage was barely... not even often killing something.
Yeah.
So he got cut because he wasn't doing much. Now the cube has changed to such a degree that not only we have synergy for his sacrifice and his persist, but there are more things to shoot. I think it's an easy bring back. So moving on.
We do not play the Black Machias also,
No.
to answer Kenny.
Ravenous Baboons becoming Ember Swallower. That's better. Swallower. This guy seems very good. Ravenous Baboon seems very slow.
Ravenous Baboon is one of those cards that seems to keep coming in and out of the cube. Every time it's there, we're always like, cut that guy. I had to blow up my own land the other day.
He is replacement level.
And then
anytime somebody gets hurt and goes to DL, Ravenous Baboon is right there to pick up the slack.
So we're gonna try the new Arc Slogger-esque variant, the big 4/5 for only. It's been a long night. Sorry about that.
Living through Wildfire is a big thing for this guy.
Randomly getting a bunch of lands and kind of like resetting the board state against control, kind of like triple tremor, I think does go a long way.
And he's a 4/5. Like, that's no small thing. He's a big boy.
Yeah, I mean, his vanilla, he looks like he's all like French vanilla in the cube, and in many ways he is, but I think it's just kind of like that power level and that presence is going to set pace for games and is going to do stuff.
Rakdos Shred Freak is becoming Fire Drinker Satyr. And a lot of people ask, well, why don't you just make Jackal-Pup Fire Drinker Satyr? They're like the same card, but Satyr's better. Well, Shred Freak is a card that didn't really do a whole lot. You know,
he's the benchmark for everyone's like, how do you not play this card? And you play that other piece of shit.
Yeah.
And we're like, alright, fine.
Yeah.
Screw you, Devotion Black and Red, and Black sneaking another card into its color section without actually trying.
Yeah, Black is the king of, like, wedging its way in various places.
Yeah, like, I got a card. Guys. I got a card, right? I got a card.
So, mostly the answer to this question is that 1-drops are so much more important than 2-drops in the red deck. Having another Jackal is so much more important than having a 2-drop haste guy. Yeah, this guy's very, very good.
It's an extension of the how many Llanowars is too many Llanowar elves
I've never had a mono red aggro deck where I'm cutting Jackal Pup. That's just literally never happened. And I would not cut a second one. It would be a weird day. I would have to have the absolute nutty nut. Like, I played sealed deck with the whole cube, and even then I would probably still be playing Jackal Pup.
Alright.
Genesis is becoming Hornet Queen now that we moved on to green.
Yeah, we're out of red after a lot of red changes, but a moment of silence for the loss of Genesis.
I will take my hat off. Now, a lot of people are saying, but guys, you're talking all about the graveyard, you're talking about recursion, you're talking about interactions with Bizarre Baghdad, Zombie Infestation. Genesis, he's got that little tombstone symbol on the top left. What the heck? And
Genesis is like the Grandpa Simpson of Magic. It's so slow.
He is an old man yelling at a cloud in that picture. He is just very, very slow. And while, yes, you can interact with him with the graveyard and do cool things occasionally, he chews your mana up in such a way that is just really undesirable compared to cards like Oath of Ghouls or Oversold Cemetery. And, he just wasn't... He's Dirkwood Boars by himself. It just never really...
Too many days, you're just casting him as a 4/4, and then he's sitting in your graveyard, and every upkeep you're always weighing the options of
he is a day one.
Yes.
So R.I.P.
Another one we're putting out to pasture here.
Yeah. We're going to have old guy cube. We'll just make from 2005 or whatever. Hornet Queen, however, very exciting.
We've talked at length on the show about Hornet Queen. It's finally time for this wall of death touch creatures that can be Revelarked back to get in there and get some work done.
Yeah, momentary blink for
I'm gonna be very interested the first time someone Oath of Druids is into this card.
That's a bold one. In more nostalgia dying a slow death news, Urnham Djinn is becoming a Boon Satyr.
Now, we had talked a lot about how this was going to be a Polukranos swap when Polukranos was initially spoiled. And I've kind of doubled back on Polukranos a little bit. It seems like a pretty heavy mana commitment, and you're not going to be able to machine gun as many guys. I don't think it's a done deal one way or the other. I think this is actually one of our larger talking points for this particular update. But Boon Satyr, on the other hand, was kind of an auto-include for me. I think this card is spectacular. You got a 4-power guy at 3 mana flash speed, and that bestow cost is right where I want to be for it to actually do something. When I initially thought bestow was going to be so overcosted across the board that it would have no shot at making cube.
I think the conversation that we had about this card when it got spoiled was 2 text messages. One from me to you and then a response. And my question to you was, so, Boon Satyr or Wolfear Avenger? And your response was, why not both? And that's kind of where we left it.
Yeah, it was just about finding the right thing to pull out. And since we already knew we were cutting Ernie, it was a done deal there. I think that it's quite eloquent as we put, on the screen for the people at home, there's a Ember Swallower right next to Urnham Djinn being 18 years of magic, kids?
I'll take this 4/5 mantle with me. Jade Mage is becoming Sylvan Caryatid. Caryatid seems very good, and everyone I've talked to who has proxied one up to test has raved about it. It seems very powerful. It's exactly what a lot of decks want. Jade Mage is another card that kind of is like Genesis, where its effect is powerful, and there are certainly decks that want it, but not at that price.
Right. The thing about Jade Mage is it's not Azure Mage. That's my problem. Is that Azure Mage
1/1s versus draw a card is a pretty imbalanced.
Exactly. I will definitely activate Azure Mage because I didn't counter a spell. I will never activate Jade Mage because hopefully I'm casting something that's good.
Yeah, Jade Mage almost would fit into the blue deck in a similar way of being an end of turn mana sink.
Yeah, I mean that was the best place that Jade Mage fit in, and that's.
I mean, Jade Mage's only real home was the opposition deck. Let's be real.
Blue-green opposition was where that card was really good,
and that deck doesn't come together very often. It doesn't seem like it's very popular.
It was actually Jade Mage was also a good natural order target.
Yeah,
but natural order decks were often blue-green anyway.
It's true.
Mystical Tutor.
Yeah. So, Creation seems very good. It seems like it's going to be very popular. Yeah. So, and we'll see. I mean, none of these cards are going away forever. They're all going in the minor league binder. So.
Yeah.
Imperious Perfect is becoming Spike Feeder.
Combo time.
Archangel of Thune is getting a buddy.
Yeah.
Imperious Perfect is another card where...
to a lesser extent, Cloning Hydra.
Yes. That's deep. That is a deep one.
Not super deep.
That's, kind of deep. Anyway, Imperious Perfect is a card that has been in forever and ever and ever. Lorwyn was right about when we built the cube, so I feel like this card's been in for days.
We cut it once.
It got cut once, it came back. It's a card that it makes a lot of decks, but no one's really happy about it. Pumping elves is very rarely relevant, despite the fact that we play a ton of mana elves. it makes tutus. It's just very slow. It just feels very plodding at this point. It hasn't really kept up.
Well, you have a Grey Ogre that might make Pouncing Jaguars, or he'll just make more 1/1s at a slower rate than Jade Mage if he actually gets killed. So, not entirely sure.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it just... It's
not strictly a combo card. I mean, definitely, I've had Spike Feeder in the cube just for its power against like the aggro red decks.
Block gain for life.
Yeah,
has been a thing. I mean, you think about Kitchen Finks. Kitchen Finks kind of functions in a similar way against aggro. Obviously, Spike Feeder is a little more defensive, but you can get tricksy with it, moving the counters around. You can get combo-y with it.
Yeah, never underestimate the spikes when it comes to combat math.
It's true. You can really ruin opposing combat math with them. Our green changes. Berserk is becoming Sylvan Scrying. Take that, Heroic.
Oh, I guess.
Not that there's really any Heroic other than Tormented here on the cube. Sylvan Scrying.
It's a bit of a catch-all, and it's much more of a Find That Bizarre Baghdad card.
We're really trying to make the Bizarre Baghdad deck more of a thing. We're trying to push it with this update. This is a card that, a lot of decks are going to play it. There are plenty of decks that want that effect just for fixing. Very few decks are playing Berserk at this point. Green is just not really an aggressive color anymore, and the drawback on it of sacking the guide was just kind of devastating to a lot of decks.
Berserk in the last few months has really been best in like Oath decks. Berserk with Lightsteel Colossus when you block.
Yeah.
Berserk my Ulamog to kill you.
Right. Clearly those are the decks that want creature targeting abilities. Sylvan Might is becoming Commune with the Gods.
One of my favorite cards from Theros.
This is a TSG approved modification.
So moving...
It finds dudes or Oath of Druids was the exact line I was told when this.
And it also puts all of them in the graveyard for your graveyard love.
It does put them in the graveyard.
You can find an oversold cemetery, or you can find a creature.
I agree. Right.
All right. The other thing is we're taking out the other half of the mill this pump spell into your graveyard with Oath of Druids and use it combo, because Reckless Charge is kind of strictly better there.
Yeah.
It's not the same color, but we get over it. I really like me a Commune with the Gods here.
Yeah. Notion Thief is becoming Ashiok, Weaver of Nightmare.
I think Ashiok is a great build around me card. It's a great control card, and it's a great card that plays multiple ways in decks. This is a card that I feel has been very controversial for people when talking about the cube. I think there's a lot of lovers and haters out there for Ashiok. But I think that
you want haters. You're going to get some haters here in about one more change. But I don't want to jump the gun.
One more change? Oh, you're talking about card changes.
I like Ashiok because it feels like it's a card that's milling based, but it doesn't feel like it's worthless or broken in a 40-card environment.
Right.
It's not so underpowered as to be horrible like something like Tome Scour, and it's not a mill 10 like a sort of Body and Mind where it just ends the game immediately. There's a lot of play to it. It doesn't end the game immediately, but it clearly gives you an advantage. And it's going to be interesting, being able to play stuff off of it, or you go up, or I think that
I think it's its own archetype almost to me. I feel like this is a card. This is a real card. It does real stuff. It's gonna make interactive games.
All right, to the Rakdos cuts, which have been, man, the chat has just blown up once they saw this, I'm not going to lie, I have to agree with the chat. This is not how I would have done this. Dreadbore is becoming Tiramet the Murder King. And this is, I'm going on record, this is going on the internet. My prediction for the shortest lifespan in Cube of this update is Tiramet the Murder King.
Alright. We should also finish this thought by saying terminate to Underworld Cerberus. Now, my thought process here is that red and black are both just a rich palette of removal, and no one seems to have any problem finding removal spells. It's been long gone are the days where Terminate was a premier removal spell. There are so many things that are redundant for it. Now, yes, we are getting Hero's Downfall. We're getting an instant speed to the face, kill a Planeswalker type card. So I was looking at this situation as an opportunity to kind of diversify in the Rakdos section of the cube, and this is where the most contested conversation, and what will continue to be the most contested conversation will be up until the final change.
Let me just say for the record, I do not want one angry tweet about this. Those are TSG changes, not me.
So again, these are not forever. These are not.
Right. Again, this list is subject to change. Like, this is the first revision. Next week we'll have an updated version.
Since we talked about this, there was talk of leaving the 2 kill spells in, just cutting Sarkin the Mad for Underworld Cerberus. There was talk about leaving in just the Dreadbore, cutting Terminate for the Murder King, and switching out Sarkin for Underworld Cerberus. I think that there's a lot of different ways we can play it. I think that Rakdos needs to be kind of shooken up a little bit because it needs to do something else. I really like Underworld Cerberus. I think that card is... No one's going to block it. It's going to kill them. It's going to do really good stuff. And I think that Tyramet, the Burger King, is in many ways the slow, poor man's version of Goblin Bombardment, and it could kill people. It will be part of a deck. I think that a lot of people are hating on it because they have not had an opportunity to play with it a lot, but I think that there's opportunity for that card to do stuff.
That section, I feel, of all the cube changes that we've talked about so far, and we'll talk about, the Rakdos changes will be the ones that are the most different once the final bell tolls.
Right. I mean, when we
again,
I think when we updated in
still an active conversam. This is just the as of
when we
today.
updated for Dragon's Maze, Simic was a big point of contest. I think
we had like I am no joke, like all night sit down powwow about what Simic looked like and should look like. I mean, we had whiteboards.
We were talking about it all night, but Simic wasn't the only part of the
conversation. It was well over 2 hours.
But we spent like 1 hour talking about Simic.
Yeah.
Compromises were made, changes were made. And I'm thinking that, I'm speculating for this particular go-around, we're going to go back to the drawing board with Rakdos. I think that when the dust settles on the situation, you're going to see Falconwrath Aristocrat, Olivia Voldaren, and some cards.
We'll see. We can touch this.
Dude, how good was Toil Trouble?
Weigh in. Send some tweets at Tristan Gregson.
So, we talked about Celestia a lot recently. I actually just posted something on Reddit recently about Celestia cards. Obviously, Redditors did not bother to read my post, and it said just spam some shit on there. So, it wasn't the most useful information. But Rakdos may be heading in that same similar direction.
We'll make a thread.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
For Gruul, this is another failed experiment. Skarg Guildmage is becoming Xenagos the Reveler. Skarg Guildmage just... Here's a card that were like, oh, might be good, and it wasn't. So, get out of here.
The first ability on that card, I would wager, was activated once.
I've literally never seen that in play.
I saw somebody activate it once. And then the second ability, I assumed, the whole assumption was the red-green was the most consistent of the ramp decks, and you just had a lot of extra mana / lands lying around, but this guy would kind of come down and just make you attack with a bunch of 4/4s.
Right.
And it never really happened.
No. And Xenagos seems very powerful and seems to work well in the red-green ramp deck, but it kind of slots in perfectly there.
Yes. Gruul is the king of the 4-drop guild.
It's true. I mean, that's, Gorklad Rampager is kind of cheating, because he works both ways.
True. And I wouldn't mind seeing Burning Tree Shaman come back.
No, I like that card a lot. Burning Tree Shaman. I love Stormbind. Gruul's a tough one.
Yeah, in the interim, I love Stormbind, yeah. Even Fire's Even Man, I like that card a lot. In the interim, if ramp is what Gruul is going to be doing a lot of, Xenagos, I think, plays great with that. Yeah. Again, we've talked about it a ton on this show. I think now it's time to go out there and turn words into actions.
Moving on, Sigarda, Host of Herons, is becoming Voice of Resurgence. Voice is a long time coming, I think.
I don't know. Celestia is still the tightest section in the cube, and I'm not sold on Voice of Resurgence. This is not a me personal choice. This is a by commune decision.
This is a committee choice.
Yeah.
We have outvoted the king, as it were.
Yeah.
Another change that I currently am lobbying petition signatures for is Lockstone Spider for Fleecemane Lion. So don't be surprised if you see that one coming up.
Yeah, there may be a conversation about that later too. I I don't know. I don't know.
Sounds so pained.
What about Advent of the Worm over Loxodon Smiter?
See, Celestia's hard. So I do not envy us.
Right.
Our lives are difficult. Angel of Despair becoming Ashen Rider, however, not difficult.
This is a blatant cash grab from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, they just want our money.
I hate you guys.
Yeah, this is just like a big F you. Now you gotta buy a foil mythic. And the last set of changes here. Gerard's Verdict becoming Sin Collector.
Sin Collector is so good. So important.
Being a guy is really good. Gerard's Verdict, I mean, I'm a big proponent of that card. I'm a vocal proponent of that card. I have played it many times in both aggressive and control decks. I like the value you get out of it. Sin Collector, though, is certainly very good. You know, he's not going to hit as often, obviously, but the 2-1 body and the varying things, and being a human, you know,
More Sweet Revelark tricks.
Zathra Necromancer tricks, you know, recursion of any kind.
More Momentary Blink tricks.
Yeah, I mean, certainly powerful.
Aether Vial, the draw staff. We like it. We know it.
Yeah. Who, What, When, Where, Why is becoming Imperial Archangel. Now, Who, What, When, Where, Why is one of those cards where a lot of people get kind of confused. It's wedged into our 3+ color section, which is not color balanced.
No, it's just 10 cards.
It's 10 cards of whatever the fuck we want.
We would like that are
we would
3
like
or more
to play.
We don't want to like jam it up because we really could make it be like 4 Grixis cards, 4 Esper cards.
Well, you could do like all the wedges or whatever.
I mean, there have been times where it's been 100% balanced, and that's where we get garbage like Fungal Shambler and people just like losing their nut about whatever's going on. They're like, this card's terrible. And we're like, well, it's balanced. And we're like, it's terrible. So nowadays we've kind of evolved to a 3 or greater section. Who, What, When, Where, Why really had a big flashing red light when it was like, anyone can play this card in any draft, and it's always in their sideboards. No one's ever playing this card.
Despite the fact that it's at least a split card for almost every deck. No one wanted it.
Right.
I played it a few times in like a strictly 5-color place, and it was okay.
Yeah, I think the best plays, I mean, like 9 times out of 10
it was
for
just
me,
like bad remove soul.
Yeah, it was remove soul, and then it was like fog plus gain some life.
I mean, like, it was occasionally cool because it was like, oh, well, they played equipment, I can get it. Or like, oh, whatever, I got a land, But for the most part, it was just like, okay, your guy, or gain some life. Imperial Archangel is another sweet reanimator target. Big, powerful finisher, hard to deal with. I like cards like that. And it's a card that I've been actually wanting in for a while. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of that one. Grafted Skullcap is becoming Expedition Map. Skullcap, I feel like I'm the only person who ever plays that card. Like,
Skullcap?
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, it's kind of like, I feel like that card's a lot like Jinx Choker, or I can't think of a better card to place an analogy. I think a lot of aggressive decks could benefit from playing Grafted Skullcap, and that no one wants to pull the trigger on it.
I absolutely.
So it like laps the table all day long for the guy playing Bizarre Bet.
I feel like a lot of decks. Right, I played in that deck. It was good, but like a lot of decks, they're like, oh, all right, nothing but 1, 2, and 3 drops, and then you could just have Grafted Skullcap. You play guy, land, Skullcap. Ditch these 2 land I'm holding. All right, now you have to deal with me drawing 2 cards turn. Oh, what if they destroy it? Oh, you get such a blowout. It's like, it's not really that much of a blowout if you're just ditching land. Like,
it's not Bottled Cloister. It's not like you lose like all this stuff you kept up.
Right.
Expedition Map's pretty easy. You can Trigger Mage for it. You can.
It's Trigger Mage synergy. It goes against Bizarre of Baghdad. It goes against Wallride Stronghold.
It could be some awkward storm combo. No, I had it in my deck tonight. I was able to tutor up Dreadshape Reef.
It goes against Urborg. It goes against Mana Fixing. It goes against
Gaze Cradle.
Gaze Cradle, if you want to do that. It's just gonna be good, and it's gonna work in a number of decks.
It's funny. The artifact section is not bound by as many rules as the other sections.
We have a general balance of. It's kind of split into like fixing, dudes, equipment, utility.
But they're not bound.
You kind of just
So it's funny because the artifact changes. I mean, part of them came out of just wanting to do things to make things better, like the Expedition Map. But the cut side almost exclusively came from the Cube Tutor draft results for the the lowest draft order cards.
We are entering the sabermetric era of Cube, where we have mountains of data to sift through on how our Cube gets drafted and how people play things, and it's not just with our eyeballs. We have this, proper data in front of us. So one of the other changes, Grid Monitor, becoming Staff of Domination. Staff is a card that comes, I feel like, in and out twice a year. It's like he has a vacation home in the minor leagues or something. And it's fine. There are certainly big mana decks that want that effect. There are not a lot of other decks that want it.
It's Raphaelos' best friend.
Sure.
I mean, if there was an altar out there of Raphaelos,
I feel the same.
Fist pumping the Staff of Domination, it would be very accurate. It would be very accurate for the situation.
I'm going to say the same thing about Staff that I feel like I always say, which is it'll be another artifact that they print in another 3 months. Right?
It is very possible. That's the revolving door policy with Staff of Domination. It's always like the 70th artifact.
Yeah,
it's always like the it works.
As soon as they print anything interesting, we're like, all right, what can we cut?
Yeah.
Staff, get out of there. All right.
I mean, Staff's not super interesting either. It goes off, or it's this very man-intensive, time-intensive, slow, grindy card that no one's happy about having, but it's still a good card, so it's always there. And last but not least, more of the unfortunate hacks at the Wildfire helpers.
Yeah, Wildfire guy got some unintentional beatdown here.
It Grid Monitor left, now it's
Angrier Brother.
Etched Monstrosity is becoming another card that actually helps Wildfire decks. We do have Everflowing Chalice here.
Everflowing Chalice is a card that there's no reason it shouldn't be in. It doesn't color fix, but scaling acceleration is very good. We recently cut Worn Power Stone, which is kind of a card I feel is similar to this. Etched Monstrosity, it's funny. It's a 5/5 for 5. Our colorless mana. People would see it, look at it, see the 5 colored mana symbols in the text box, and immediately disregard it.
Yeah, they would not see it as the would-be Phyrexian Hulk that it was.
Right. The whole point of it was that it was a 5 mana guy that lived through Wildfire. And occasionally that's what it did. But so many people just refuse to look at it as anything other than, I have to activate the ability on this. And that just, never happened. It's very cute with Verals.
Yeah.
But, it just never really came together.
That's where it ended. So there you have it. That is the initial proposed change list. The most notables being the lack of Pelucranos from what we thought was going to be a shoo-in when we first saw Heroes versus Monsters spoilers. And then obviously the hotly contested Rakdos section of the cube, which will probably require some later debate. I stand by the fact that red and black, the color combination, still have a very rich.
Again, direct all tweets.
Whatever. Draftcube@gmail.com. That is where you can send all your questions, concerns, and other regards.
I just don't want to. I don't want to get burned alive for that one.
Let's go to the other side of the coin here.
A lot of things that are not currently in this list. Some of the chat mentioned the weapons.
Now, you were hot to trot on the hammer of Pelucranos.
I like the red weapon. I think that's
I think it is so slow.
I think that is quite a saucy, take that Wrath of God Dex card for red. That's my opinion.
It seems like a poor man's Greater Gargadon. I don't know.
Yeah, except it costs 3 instead of 10 or 1 with a bunch of sacking.
10, yeah, right.
Gargadon is also very slow.
That's exactly what I think.
Gargadon is also very slow.
It's different. It's done.
Right.
The white weapon, I think, is probably the one that's closest to making the cube. I think that the Glorious Anthem effect is a fine effect, and the tacked-on reciprocation effect on it is not irrelevant.
It'll happen occasionally. Yeah. Currently, for Crusade effects, we're only playing Crusade and Honor of the Pure right now. We don't have Glorious Anthem, Divine Sacrament, etc., etc., etc.
Tangible Virtue is almost good enough these days.
Yeah, I think that the fact that Crusade and Honor of the Pure cost 2 mana is really what's keeping them in their spot.
Definitely.
Glorious Anthem is a card that was in at one time, especially when the white weenie deck.
Divine Sacrament was there at one point.
Yeah. When the White Weenie deck was more of a thing, there were more anthems, but that's been scaled back over time. Another card that people I've heard.
I'm trying to remember what other people think are really popular from this set.
A lot of people have mentioned or suggested Thassa, the blue god.
Oh my god, that is the... What is wrong with you people? That is the worst god.
The argument put forth is that...
Actually, Heliod's worse, my mistake.
The argument put forth is that it only costs 3, so it's not... You can usually keep a counterspell open when you play it. The Scry one is not irrelevant.
Okay, I'm with you so far, I think.
And a majority of blue's creatures are double blue. So it's not too terribly difficult to activate her, make her a creature. Vanillion Click, things like the various
like
Planeswalkers.
For starters, blue has
control magics.
The 1/3 creature to 2/3 spells.
Correct, but it also has control magics. It has all its Planeswalkers are double blue. It's got multiple double blue enchantments
that just win the game by themselves. Like,
treachery and control magic, and
if our cube went to 1,000 cards, maybe. Or if we brought Volition Reigns back,
confiscate,
Legacy's Allure back. That would be so awkward. Legacy's Allure Thassa.
Agent of the Fates is another card. I kind of want that guy. I think I had him in the last proposed list I sent to you.
Which one's Agent of the Fates?
3/2 Death Touch for 3 in black.
Oh, right.
Remember that time I sent you a list of my changes?
Yeah. I don't remember that one being on there.
Yeah, it was.
Hammer was on there.
Yeah.
There was somebody else you were trying to bump out of green.
Oh. Yeah, I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Anyway. I like Agent.
I incorporated some of that.
I think that... Good nice day that you care. We'll probably make more changes to black and get Agent in. I want to see him in. I think that black 3-drops are kind of a weird spot in the sense that there just isn't...
I think you sent it to me the same day you sent me that request.
Yeah. In the sense that there are not a ton of 3-drops for black, I think that... Anyway.
I don't know. I mean, the thing about black is, in black, there are 0 beneficial spells for your guys. There's nothing that's I'll coincidentally target this with something that I like.
Yeah, here are my changes.
So you wanted to cut...
I want to cut Getting Enchantment Justice, to be clear.
Right. We just...
I wanted Hinder for Dissolve. Or Dissipate.
You want the card Dissolve.
Hinder or Dissipate. I think they're all interchangeable. I think Dissolve would be kind of cool to play with as a mod.
Oh, that's what it was. You wanted Agent of Fates, but you wanted to cut a Yukibi game Shinobi.
Yeah.
Yeah, we cut a Yukibi game Shinobi.
We got halfway there.
Yeah.
I also wanted Tragic Slip for Barter and Blood.
I like Barter. I think that that control, the whole black control thing is still there. That's still going to be a deck.
It's just a little airborne. It's still good.
It's still a deck. It's still a deck. What else was there? Go back. We were talking about crop rotation.
Crop rotation, Night's Whisper.
Right, yeah, we talked about...
Stormbreath Dragon.
Stormbreath Dragon is one that's very popular.
It's close, I feel.
Yeah. It's almost there.
Again, 5 toughness. So relevant for that deck.
Oh, and you also desperately want Mask of Memory back.
I do want Mask of Memory back. I like Mask of Memory. My suggestion was Basilisk Collar for Mask of Memory. I know you can Trinket Mage for Basilisk Collar. I just don't see that card getting played all that often anymore.
It's good. I mean, against the red decks and stuff,
sure.
Gaining life is good. Black decks want Basilisk Collar.
Sure. I just don't see it that often. I think that was about... Yeah. Oh, I wanted Pillar of Flame instead of Price of Progress.
What did we end up making that choice for then instead? There's something very similar.
You made it.
We went Reckless Charge. Yeah.
I went Pillar of Flame.
You still prefer Pillar of Flame over Reckless Charge?
Yeah. I mean, Reckless Charge just never felt like it was. I mean, obviously, right now we're in the most graveyard-centric we've ever been, so it's possible that the flashback on Reckless Charge becomes more relevant. But the graveyard deck is also not all that often read, just because there's very little interaction there, and Village is good.
We're losing Fiery Temper. We still have Faithless Looting.
We could bring back Violent Eruption for the discard.
The red?
Yeah, if you want to get real red with it.
My opponent tonight killed a lot of my Goblin tokens with Violent Eruption.
Obviously in the backup binder.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tragic Slip was one of the only ones that I was kind of like...
No, and we were pretty high on the horse of Tragic Slip. It was actually on the initial proposed list.
Right, and then
it was chopped for Hero's Downfall.
Well, right, but I think that they're very different cards. And I think that...
It's all about your Agent of Fates with Tragic Slip.
Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, it doesn't work. Why?
It's too funny. It's just
why?
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, that was... Oh, and... I wanted Crop Rotation for Restock, because nobody seems to play Restock.
That is an Oath card. That is a Intuition card, a Gifts Ungiven, a Control card.
It's a bad card, actually. And I wanted to cut Slaughterhorn for Polukranos. Or, technically, Slaughterhorn for Boon Satyr and Urnim Djinn for Polukranos, but same difference.
I still really like Slaughterhorn.
I mean, it's okay.
It's not the worst, but it's all right.
Nah, it's just...
Violent Eruption is a very good card if you can cast it. If you can cast it.
If you can cast it.
If you can't cast it, don't bother.
But Violent Eruption is one of those cards where it's... You really kind of have to have a discard outlet. The triple red is just very difficult to get.
Or you just play a mono red deck. I mean, if you're playing like...
if you're playing mono red, then sure, obviously.
Well, yeah, that's the deck that's playing it anyway.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily the deck.
Like, you're not playing like Psychic with Violent Eruption.
The mono red deck often wants to take that 4 damage and put it at the face.
Yeah,
in which case you're paying a pretty high premium to do so.
That's the thing about it, is you rarely need to split it 6
right.
ways from
The decks
Sunday.
that want to split it are not usually that heavy red, right. So they would need a discard outlet, i.e. some kind of Psychotog and a Grixis deck or something.
All right. So in summation, Theros, good set for Q.
There were a surprising amount of strictly betters. You know, things like Soldier of the Pantheon, where it's just a card that exists with other abilities stable to it. Fire Crusader is another example of just a card that exists with other things stable to it.
Really surprised, especially because the heroic, monstrous, and bestow mechanics were not really like
friendly.
We're not doing it. We have one bestow card,
one monstrous card, and one heroic card.
Yeah, and they're all like they're just fine on their own. If you just play them as vanilla guys without their additional abilities, would have been okay. So at the end of the day, big surprise from Theros. Was not expecting as many cards to come in. With this update, we're looking to make a lot of red changes, which I was not expecting, and also flush out some new cool strategies with something like Zaxxon Necromancer, Zombie Infestation, and...
Sam Black is... I mean, I know he's not listening to this, but he'd be very happy with this change.
He never will. He doesn't like us.
Oh. Anyway, but we're putting Colin McBarman in. We did this for you!
Well, there you have it. It's a long night for us. It's almost midnight here. We only made it to about the 90-minute mark tonight, so for that we apologize. For those of you in the chat who are here live, or actually if you're listening to this after the fact, please favorite us on Twitch, like us on Facebook, subscribe, all that good jazz. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Tristan Gregson, at Young Mecha, if you've got any Rakdos-related insight for what cards you think should be making the cube in the next few weeks. Our final locked-in decisions will hopefully be on release day. Until then, we will do our best to
We'll probably next week have one more posted change.
Oh, yeah. We'll revisit it. I mean, it might not be the full 30
No, we won't go through the whole thing, but we'll just
go
do, like...
anything notable that's changed. I'll post it to the Google Doc at that point, so it'll be free information online that you can then use at your own discretion. I really like Underworld Cerebros. I'm really excited about that.
I think I'm going to put the backup cube list on the website also.
You realize it's not the whole spreadsheet I sent you, though, right? It's not the whole spreadsheet.
Well, I'll put that spreadsheet up. Just
you could put that.
Well, it's like a,
It's kind of like an incomplete list. Whatever. I mean, we'll figure it out.
I'll put it up and be like, hey, do you need cards for your cube and you're not sure what to run? Here are some cards.
We have 700 cards in our cube that we like. Here's another God, how many?
A lot.
Here's another 500 you might be interested in.
Yeah, you might want a good deed. You never know.
So there you have it. Again, not too proud to beg. Here we are on the Twitch stream. Donations can be made for Eck to Cube Draft. Donations can be made for us to bring some sweet video coverage of the Cube League.
I am streaming Cube Drafts next week.
Good. That's the kind of thing we should be hearing. We will put that funding to good use. What we've gotten so far, we're just kind of sitting on, waiting for the opportunity to really kind of like spring it on a good project. We're still working on, one of these days we'll get around to making the blog a useful, readable place where you can have more of a conversation. I'm not saying you're not putting stuff there now. I'm saying the people aren't coming.
It's okay. I know you hate it.
I don't hate it. I just think we could probably take a week, put some hours into it, and make it really nice and spit polished.
If only we knew someone who went to a design college.
It's true. If only
that was perhaps in a place all day with people, designers and artists, if you will.
Yeah, that would be so much better. Goals we would like to do that one of these days we will do. Right now, I spent all week re-sleeving a fake cube.
That's all on you, sir. No one asked you to do that.
It's bringing it on you. So there you have it. So again, thanks everyone for tuning in this evening. Again, please donate. We're going to do some sweet projects, I promise you. As much as Edmund has been busy raking in the money on...
just swimming in a bathtub full
on Indie Game, all of these sweet add-ons to that project. So we got to get him out to at least draft us some more, because it's been too long for that guy. But thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.